Guys, first topic is Fox News. New report out in New York Magazine about it, how they basically secretly run the Republican Party. I'm not sure we're surprised by that, but I want to give you one of the quotes because I find it really interesting. They said you can't run, a person said you can't run for the Republican nomination without talking to Roger. That's a GOP insider, apparently. And they said every single candidate has consulted with Roger, but he hasn't found any of them, including the adults in the room, John Huntsman, Mitch Daniels, Mitt Romney, compelling. Quote, he finds flaws in every one, said a person familiar with his thinking. Jane, can a Republican win the nomination without kissing Roger Ailes' ring?
No, he can't. I think it's very clear at this point that Roger Ailes really has to say, we're going to get behind a candidate before they can expect to win. And in telling fashion, now that Ailes is casting his gaze on Chris Christie, the White House is now doing opposition research on Chris Christie. You know, the good news about this article is that even Roger Ailes has his limits. He thinks Glenn Beck is unstable and that Sarah Palin made a huge blunder with her blood libel speech. But the bad news is that this is what happens when you get so much media consolidation in the power of one person, basically. And Roger Ailes has successfully leveraged the ever-expanding Murdoch media empire to the point where he can virtually block out the sun if he wants to for any candidate among the people that they're going to count on for votes.
Right. And and it turns out, you know, you mentioned Palin in there. An insider apparently says that he thinks Palin is stupid, which is wow. Okay. Well, and of course, Fox News shot back saying, well, if he finds who that insider is, he's no longer going to be an insider, which to me is not much of a denial. You know, they also said, oh, of course she's smart, of course, but come on. Well,
she gave that blood libel speech, which was maybe the stupidest decision of all time. And Ailes had actually counseled her not to do that. He said, look, you sound like a victim, Adam, and it's horrible.
Now, let's stay on presidential politics for a second here. I can't believe this, but Trump says he might get back into the race. Can I get an across-the-board agreement from all of you guys? Trump, clown of the earth, totally not relevant?
Absolutely.
Yep. I think he's very successful at getting his headlines named in the headlines, and he's done it once again.
Okay, so we're absolutely clear on that. I wanted to make sure. Now, speaking of presidential candidates, Biden apparently in Cincinnati told a bunch of funders that he might run in 2016. He would be 74 at the time. Jane, does that make any sense, or is that absurd?
I think it is absurd, but it isn't the most absurd thing. I mean, Biden's job is going up to Capitol Hill and basically being the great compromiser. You've got a group of politicians who are living in bizarro land. They're not addressing anything that the American public cares about. They're not dealing with, the job situation. They're not dealing with health care. They're not dealing with the things that, that Americans want. They're listening to people who think that cutting Medicare is a good idea. And Biden has to go sell this in 2016. I think that he's going to have a tough time.
All right, real quick, David and Adam, any chance he runs or can win?
I mean, I think there's a chance that he's going to run. I think it won't be a situation like Al Gore in 2000 where he's sort of the presumptive nominee. I think there's a lot of up-and-coming Democrats, and I think that Joe Biden hasn't really made it necessarily a name for himself outside of the Obama administration, which I think will be probably pretty necessary for a Democratic candidate in 2016.
Adam?
Yeah, 2016 is going to be an opportunity for us to elect a real progressive president. I don't think an old Democrat is the same as a bold progressive. We need a bold progressive, and we're going to be looking for that kind of ideal candidate. We don't have it right now in the White House, but we need one in 2016.
Oh, damn, I knew you were going to go there. Okay, so now speaking of bold progressives, let's go to the Senate races. Now, we've got one in Ohio, you got one in Montana, Missouri, and Minnesota. I know, Adam, you were part of the people that commissioned a poll in those states. Let me just show the Ohio numbers. When you ask people, hey, are you opposed to cutting Medicare to balance the budget? Boy, are they opposed to it. 76% say they're opposed to that. 61% opposed to cutting Medicaid, and 80% opposed to cutting Social Security. And the numbers were basically the same in all four of those states, very, very similar. What message do you think those Democratic senators in those races get out of a poll like that?
Well, the message they need to get is don't even come close to cutting Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits. It is a huge political loser, and Democrats can't go there. And I'll say this, myself, Jane, and David, all of us in the end of 2010, we were told as progressives, don't take your ball and go home, get in line, support Democrats. And our answer was, we're supporting Democrats, but we warned you months ago that if you drop the ball on things like the public option, that your turnout will not be what you need it to be. Well, we're telling you way in advance, Democratic Party, don't go there. Do not cut Social Security and Medicare. It won't be us that you have to fear. It's those voters in Ohio and Missouri and Minnesota and other places.
Now, Jane, they're getting great.
Principles.
They're getting great political capital out of this. I mean, they're beating the hell out of people, including the 26th district, saying the Republicans are coming after your Medicare. But do you think there's a chance that they'll go to strike a deal with the Republicans, including Vice President Biden doing that negotiating right now, and cut Medicare and Social Security anyway?
Well, that's been their line all along, is that we need to cut it to save it so that the Republicans won't do it because they'll do worse. But the message of this poll should be that is just nothing people will ever believe. If you cut it, you cut it. You take away they have that wonderful Ryan vote that is now like the beast that ate Cincinnati. It is rolling through the Republican Party. And if they try and say, we're going to go up and do this grand compromise, well, we'll just cut it a little bit. Not only do they take it away, they piss everybody off. I just don't know why they would do it, but it seems like something they want to do.
Last thing, Dave, is there any way that they can walk this back? Because remember, the president came out and gave a speech and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to do 3 times as many spending cuts as I do tax increases. Basically, can he walk that back, or is that too late now?
Well, I think the poll actually what it does is it creates an interesting dynamic where you may have the senators who are up for re-election in the Democratic Party being the ones who are giving voice to the idea that the president's plan to reduce Medicare and to potentially cut Social Security is wrong. So in other words, you may have a situation where the seemingly most electorally vulnerable Democrats are the ones who are leading the charge within the Democratic Party to tell the president that he is off base.